told your friend you're not okay? And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Got a buildup of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay? Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby, have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no, you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what
You're not okay. Oh, hello. Hi. Hey, Go Gamer. Hey, Nun. Hey, BFF. Hey, Triple. What's up? Hey, Autistic. So, I decided that today I was gonna actually watch some interviews, perhaps some clips even, um, on Diane Downs and Shannan Watts and Susan Smith. Now, we all know I would never put them in the same category, but as we know, somebody did. I don't want to color it or anything. I guess kind of am, but I just don't understand like why she would link them together. I tried watching it, it was just too much for me. So I'm just going to show like go through them and explain exactly why they're not. Okay? Because for one, Shanann was murdered. The other two weren't. They were the actual killers. I don't know, it just don't make sense to me. You got a migraine? Then get out of here, woman. I don't mean that in a rude way. Go lay down. You do not have to be here, sweetie. Hell no. Hey, RB. I hate migraines. Okay, I'm just looking for the videos that I had. Oh, has anybody ever heard of Pazuzu Algarad? Wow, that one's bad too. Okay, come on, where the hell did it go? Here's one. Okay, that's weird that I can't hear anything when I play videos. Hmm. Yeah, I don't understand that. And then like just trying to fix this. Yeah, I don't understand that. Hey, Nana. You want to hang out? Well, just listen then. You don't have to do any modding. Don't post anything. Honestly, just lay down, relax, okay? What you doing, babe girl? Tell your brother, say, I want some tweets. I want some tweets. Frick, Claire's cute. Okay. Let me see here. I gotta figure out this audio. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what I did. All right, here is Diane Downs' most recent interview is what it's called. Oopsie. And it's old. When the hell? I don't even. 1984. Is she in the tree? Claire, get out of the tree. It's not yours. It's not your present, girl. Get out of there. Yeah, you get a treat. Just because you don't get a treat, you do that? No. No. No, 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 I haven't. Yeah, exactly. Listen to Teresa. You're from North Carolina? Well, hello, hillbilly. Hillbilly vagabond? Yeah, that's what I would suggest to do too. No. No, you every time I see your name, it's like, "Oh, yeah, the pizza, the pizza." I did, however, though, tonight I did order something. I ended up getting, chicken parmesan for my son, he's obsessed with it. So I got him that, and I had junk food. Claire, really? Get out. She's so cute, I can't yell at her. Hey, Karen. No, don't send me anymore, you've done enough, woman. You've done enough. I'll give you oh, yeah, I did get your message today. I told you to call me back, but I'm not sure if you saw it. I will give you my address. Is that me, mate? What is that? Okay, anyways. Yeah, I need to figure out my damn volume. I wonder if it's has anything to do with this. Audio. Wow. So it's testing my speakers. This is testing your speakers. All right then. I guess we can watch this little interview here. Ah, gotcha. All right, let's peek at this. We don't have to watch it all. How long is it? It's 29 minutes. I speed it up though.
This is an
I can't
Eyewitness
hear it.
News special report. In her own words, Elizabeth Diane
I'm
Downs.
gonna mute myself.
Good evening. I'm Ann Bradley. What you're about to see is a conversation with Elizabeth Diane Downs in November. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to try to give you the inside story about what Elizabeth Diane Downs is like, in her own words, how she feels about her life, her former marriage, her children, and the events that have happened over the past year. You may be wondering why we haven't aired this interview. Eyewitness News waited until now because of the sensitivity of some of the things said, and it does contain some graphic language. These comments represent Elizabeth Diane Downs' thoughts and opinions and are not necessarily shared by KEZI. We've also been concerned about the effect of this material on potential jurors. Now that a jury has been picked, we want to share some of the background of the Downs case with you. Let's start by taking a look back at what happened May 19th, 1983. A year ago this week, one of the most horrendous crimes took place along this stretch of Old Mohawk Road east of Eugene. A 28-year-old woman and her 3 small children were brutally shot. Elizabeth Diane Downs says the family was on a sightseeing trip when a shaggy-haired stranger flagged her down and demanded her car. She refused, and the assailant shot Downs and her children at close range with a .22 caliber gun. 9-year-old Christy was shot first, through the hand into the chest as she tried to protect herself. 3-year-old Danny was shot in the back and is now paralyzed from the waist down. 7-year-old Cheryl was shot twice from behind and died on the way to the hospital. Police searched the brush.
Sorry, I was muted the whole time. I'm gonna have to use my phone to listen to the volume until I figure out what's going on with my laptop here. But I'll mute myself so you don't hear echoes or anything like that. But what I was saying, yeah, absolutely agree, Nanan. I read the book. And it was written by what? Anne Rule. It was a pretty good book, but holy hell. Hey, Hank. So I'll watch my own video. Right. And the thing that busted her for that is she actually took I don't know what it was. It was a scarf, I think. And she folded it and had it prepared for when she shot herself in the arm. Yeah. I absolutely love the prosecutor. He actually took in the children that she tried to murder. Um, they are doing amazing. I've heard wonderful things. And I need to go into my own here. I'm gonna mute myself and play.
And nearby river looking for the murder weapon. The gun was never found, and neither was the shaggy-haired stranger. Police started suspecting Downs as the culprit. The prosecution claims her obsessive love for an ex-boyfriend in Arizona was her motive. The state says Downs felt her children were getting in the way and preventing a romantic relationship with that former boyfriend. And strangely enough, even the people who knew Downs best questioned her account of the shootings on the night of the murder. Downs' father, Wes Fredrickson. Was there ever a time from the beginning when you first heard that you had any doubts about her innocence?
Was there a time when I had doubts? Yes, there was. The first night, as a matter of fact, I had doubts. I felt, while I sat and I sized up the situation, and I saw at one point that Diane had been shot in the, and everybody knows her as Elizabeth, but Diane had been shot in the left arm, and she's right-handed. And I made the comment to the police department there that night. It looks to me like Diane did it, because the children have been shot in the chest, and Diane has only been shot in the arm. And I says, it really looks like she did it. That really is the thing that spurred them to go and check, to do the Q-tips, run the Q-tips around her finger to check for the powder residue, and to also spray her hands to see if she held a gun. So it was a good thing that I expressed that. And I'm a very open person. If I think that somebody did something, I'm not about to hesitate to say they didn't. You know, I'll tell them that I think they did. I'd say the same thing again if I believed it. I've had plenty of opportunity to follow, and that's one of the main reasons, I guess, for peace of mind. I've followed through. Yes, for peace of mind.
Hey, Suzanne. Linking Shannon to the other two makes zero sense. I see I missed a lot last night. Oh, girl. So much stuff came out last night that I didn't even know about. I had two people in my comment section telling me that somebody had did videos and stuff and lives like a year prior about how Susan Smith, Diane Downs, and Shannan Watts were all in a trifecta, and they were all the same people. And I'm going, no. For one, the two women were actually put in prison, and they were the murderers, and Shannan Watts was a fucking victim. I was mouthy and not playing nice with others last night, so I was not a student. Oh, I should have had you on my live then the other night. Oh my God, with the same person. Yeah, she had her last child in prison, yeah. And the baby was given up for adoption, and later in the child's life was told her, I know, that was a very long stream though, so I don't blame you if you don't watch it.
And I know that my daughter didn't do it.
I have been through that night so many times. I've even been through it with my psychologist. It's very hard. It's very tearful. There are a lot of memories that, I don't know. A lot of people, when something traumatic happens to them, they suppress immediately. I kept those. Immediately.
I have to say, wow, she really, or Janelle Evans really looks like her. I mean, wow. I remember watching Teen Mom when I was younger, and then I remember seeing Janelle, and then I knew about this case as well, and I was just, the resemblance is just uncanny. Oopsie.
Memories, because I knew that I was the only person that was going to be able to tell them what happened when we got to the hospital. And when I got there, the first thing I said was call the doctors. Second thing was the blood type. Third thing was call the cops, because they've got to find him. And so I had to remember as much as I could remember. When this man shot my daughter, my first reaction was to snap back to my childhood, to the pain that had happened to me back then, my marriage, my entrapment by society. This man was bigger than me. He was stronger than me. He had more power because he had a gun. He was in control, and I was not. And there was nothing I could do. And I stood there and I looked at Christy reaching. And
Are you serious? Your first thing is to snap back to your childhood, but your babies are dying? Oh my gosh. Wow.
the blood that just kept gushing out of her mouth. And what do? You just stand there trapped. And then And then the gun kept firing and firing and firing. And it was monotonous. It just kept going. It was like a slow motion picture. And then he swung around towards me, and this is something that I did not recall when I was explaining to the cops, because it wasn't like a movie when I was telling them. I was telling them what happened, the important details. He shot my kids. I pushed him. I ran. And when he swung around, he was pointing. When he swung around, it hit the tips of my fingers. The gun hit the tips of my fingers, and that snapped me. And I went, wait a minute. I'm not trapped by society. I don't care if he is bigger. If I stand here and I say, yeah, here, take the keys. I mean, there's nothing I can do. You win because you have the gun. My kids are going to die. And I'm not going to let my kids die. And so instead of giving
Wait a minute, I'm not trapped by society. Yeah, he's bigger than me. That's what her go-to is? Oh my gosh. Yes, that was a great it was a great movie. The Burning Bed or something like that, wasn't it? Diane also went on Oprah while she was in prison and confronted Dan Rule about the book, and she absolutely piece of work, calling everyone liars, and it is bizarre. Absolutely. What was that called again, Karen? Wasn't it The Burning Bed or something like that? Absolutely no emotion. Isn't that scary? There's people we know that are like that. And I hate to say it, but KJ is one of them. Just that constant, they believe so much in their self with thank you, the burning bed. They believe so much in their own lies. Like they tell it like they're talking about their shoes, man, not their own children being, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, exactly, Karen. KJ. And like I said, she does remind me of Janelle Evans. Janelle Evans reminds me of her. And the thing is, Janelle Evans is in a situation. Thank you. Small sacrifice. Well, that was the book. I don't know why I got the burning bed. Why do I have the burning bed? I think the movie was called Small Sacrifices too, wasn't it? What the hell's the burning bed then? Thank you. It is a movie, but it's not about that. I don't know why I have that too confused, but I definitely do. But anyways, as I was saying it, Janelle, her situation and how she is with her children, no emotion, and she's automatically right with her husband, right? I mean, Jace ran away again. Again? That's what I read, but I can't see it being again because I thought he was in Barbara's custody. I'm so confused on that. But Janelle needs to get her shit together, and she absolutely needs to, if not for herself, get her kids out of there, man. But she won't. She won't.
giving him the keys, I feigned throwing the keys. He did not take time to point the gun and shoot me, obviously, because he would have shot me the same way he did the kids. When he was swinging in the direction of the keys, firing the gun, he hit my arm. Everybody says, you sure were lucky. Well, I don't feel very lucky. I couldn't tie my damn shoes for about 2 months. It is very painful. It is still painful. I have a steel plate on my arm. I will for 1.5 years. The scar is going to be there forever. I'm going to remember that night for the rest of my life, whether I want to or not. I don't.
I did watch this before, and I'm hoping that they show the footage where she's outside with the police and she's got the keys and she's fumbling with the keys and she drops the keys and she laughs. She's like, oh, my arm, just like she did right there. Who in the effing world is going to laugh at something like that? Thank you, Vivian. No, it's not, Teresa. You're right. I know there's the burning bed and there's small sacrifices. Yeah, she sure her exactly. Yeah, it's uncanny, the resemblance of KJ, isn't it? She claims to have asphyxia, which is where you stumble on what word you want to use and can't use the correct words. And she said that policemen understood what she would. Bull crap. Was she diagnosed by a doctor for that? No. Burning bed is about an abusive husband who holds the wife hostage for like 3 days and the wife ends up killing. Okay. All right. I knew it was something like that. For some reason, I thought it was, I don't know why, the same one. Anyways.
I don't think I was very lucky. I think my kids were lucky. If I had been shot the way they were, we all would have died, except maybe Danny.
What haunts you the most about that night?
What do I see most is blood coming out of Christy's mouth, because that's what I see. I can't see Danny, and I can't see Cher. Sherry was laying on the floor, and driving to the hospital, I don't know the sounds that were made at the initial shooting because I was on the outside, and all I could hear, I can't hear anything but gunshots. And I can see things, you know, that's it. Driving to the hospital, I can smell blood. I can not hear Cheryl. Cheryl's not making a sound. Danny is just crying real soft. So that sound stays in my mind, and the fact that Christy's choking, and then I'm yelling at her and screaming at her to roll over on her face because I was trying to keep her from choking on her blood, and it just didn't dawn on me that she was shot in the chest and that the blood was coming from her chest, not going down into her chest.
Yeah. Downs says her childhood and marriage flashed before her the night of the murder. Diane is the oldest of 4 Frederickson children, and she says her childhood is a great source of pain in her life. How did your childhood affect you?
Everything that happens to you as a child contributes to how you turn out as an adult. To be honest, it made me a better person because I know all the mistakes. I know what not to do to my kids. I know what to.
Like, are you freaking kidding me? How the fuck does this have to do with her and her childhood? This has nothing to do with her. Now that we know what happened, but even then, when we thought it was true, and she blamed it, of course, on a black man, she narcissistic bitch. She made it about herself. That right there should tell you she's guilty. My gosh. Yeah, why? Why?
Avoid. One thing is to not be married. And that may seem very harsh, but I honestly don't believe that children need fathers. And they're nice to have around sometimes when they can do things to help you, but when they are mentally abusive, when they are harsh, and the way my ex-husband was, they're more a deterrent to the children than a help. And unless you can find a good father, there is no need for them.
Did your childhood affect your attitude toward men?
That has a lot to do with it. That had a lot to do with it for many years. I hated men with a passion. But yeah, I hated men for a long time. That's why I met Steve. That's why I married Steve, because Steve did not seem to be that way. Steve was always on his best behavior. He does the thing that most people do when they're dating, and that's put their best foot forward. Behavior. He does the thing.
So I hated men, but yet that's why I met Steve, because you hated men? That makes absolutely no sense. Diane is more feminine. Yes. Yeah.
You're nice, they're punctual, they're everything they're supposed to be. And then you marry them, and it's, hey, Diane, can you let yourself in? I have to run down and look at a car.
Yeah.
That's what he did on our wedding day. Actually, I found it out the day I got married, and then within the next 2 months after that, I found out that Steve was exactly like my father. But it took me 3 years to finally say, I can't take it anymore. He really is. He's not going to change. I am a person that believes that everybody's going to change for the better, given the right circumstances. If you be a good wife, if you don't nag, if you love them, if you're always there when they need them, if the food's always ready, if the house is always clean, they're going to change. He didn't change. And that's why, even though we were married for 8 years, only 3 of it was not tolerable. It wasn't tolerable, but that was the only 3 that I tried. After that, I quit because I didn't want to be married anymore.
Diane says her marriage with Steve Downs deteriorated when friction arose over an unexpected pregnancy.
Okay, after I had Christy and after I had Cheryl, Steve had a vasectomy. It didn't work. And he never went back to get checked to see if it worked. He just figured doctors know what they're doing. It must have worked. So after, I think it's, you're supposed to wait 10 weeks, be on some kind of contraceptive for 10 weeks, and then you're safe.
And then you check.
But you're supposed to check, yeah. He never went back because he was just too busy, and the doctor probably knew what he was doing. Well, I got pregnant, and I knew that.
This is sick. Yes, another KJ. Her children are literally dead and dying. And she's up there laughing like she's telling her childhood fucking stories of greatness. Wow. Like, yes, and exactly. And you know what? That was the same with Susan Smith. She was having an affair with that guy at the grocery store. He said he didn't want kids. So what does she do? She drives her 2 beautiful boys into that damn lake and thinks that she is gonna have them now? No. I fucking hate women like this. I do. I really do. And when I see them and they have platforms and I know what they're capable of, it just it irks me. Wow. Think about this. She's saying someone killed her children and she is focusing on her ex-husband's vasectomy. Right, that's what I mean. And she purposely got pregnant after her son. Remember, she actually broke out of prison. She went to some house, had sex with some guy, purposely got knocked up. And then I don't know if you guys ever seen the interview where she's sitting in the court, not the interview, she's sitting in the courtroom and that song comes on by Duran Duran and she's just taking her nails and raking them over her belly and tapping her feet. I can't.
That I wasn't messing around with anybody, and that if I was pregnant, because I know what being pregnant feels like, I know how I got that way. And I told him about it, and he gave me heck. Oh, he
So
was
is
just
Danny or
furious.
is Danny not?
That was the child that I aborted. Steve put me through hell with that one,
Yeah.
and I had an abortion. Cheryl was colicky. Steve was bitching. I made Steve go back to the doctor or shut up. Don't accuse me until you know. The doctor said, yeah, you are fertile. I guess I goofed up. Come on in, and we'll go ahead and do it again. Well, I was pregnant. So I was 20 years old, had 2 kids. Cheryl was colicky. My husband was a bastard. I'm sorry. And I had an abortion. And it was something that did not bother me for 2 years. And then I was at a fair in Arizona. I walked past a Right to Life booth, and they told me at the time that I aborted that I was 6 weeks. And I figured 6 weeks, that is a condition. You are not pregnant. That is a condition. It's a little ball of slime, you know, no big deal. It's a fetus is slime, I figured. I saw a 6-week fetus. That baby had arms, legs, fingers, toes, a head, eyes. That was a baby. It was a human being, and I killed it. And I felt so horrible about it that I
What in the actual crap fuck? A fetus is actual slime, and it didn't bother me, the abortion. This girl, oh my God. That's it. Hungry like a wolf. Thank you very much. And yeah, I did confuse that, Suzanne. Absolutely. I don't know why I kept thinking, I knew Farrah Fawcett played in it, but I know the book by Anne Rule is called Small Sacrifices. And for some reason I assumed, or I just not assume, I really thought that the movie was called The Burning Bed, but there's there's that movie too. So it was like, so I watched them both. Oh my God. Hey, Frisco. She has an actual there's a Diane Downs YouTube channel that has actual prison phone calls. I wanted to show you this interview. There's also many, this might have to be like a series because this is a lot of information. I wanted to show you guys also in the courtroom. There's a movie too. I wonder if we can get away with watching it. It's pretty good. Like the movie about the small sacrifices. I wonder if we can get away with watching it because it is pretty old.
had killed somebody like that. I didn't kill it myself, but I hired a doctor to do it. And so I asked my husband to have his vasectomy changed, reversed. He refused. I asked him for a year. He kept saying no. I said, fine, I will find a suitable donor. I watched people I worked with. I picked somebody that was attractive, that was healthy, that was not abusive of drugs and alcohol and such, was strong, you know, bone structure, the whole bit, a good specimen. It was really clinical. It was really terrible. And I seduced him. And I know my cycle, and it only took once, and I got pregnant. I went home, and about a week later, I told Steve I was pregnant. And he goes, how do you know? And I says, well, I know my cycle. I know I'm pregnant. And he was really upset. For that whole 9 months, he put me through hell every day, every night. It was terrible, just railed on me constantly, told me to get an abortion, the whole bit. And then after the baby was born, he told me,
I'd be fucking pissed too. She cheated on the guy. I can't either. I can't either. That scene with her raking her fingers over that pregnant belly and wow. She's a piece of work, this bitch. She talks on the phone to the guy she wanted, and those conversations are all about him and how she told nothing about him to the police.
if you have a girl, baby, I might let you stay around. But if you have a boy, I'm kicking you both out on your butts, and you're going to take those 2 with you also, because how do I know they're mine? That kind of attitude. Well, I lived with that for 9 months. Well, when Danny was born, Steve, because, okay, the reason it had to be a girl was because Christy was supposed to be a boy. I was so cruel and mean, I had a girl, and Steve just couldn't stand it. Got one more chance, Diane. Cheryl better be a boy. Well, Cheryl turned out being a girl. He came into the recovery room. He goes, well, where is he? I said, he's a she. He says, how could you do that? You know, we're not having any more kids. Crazy, flipped out. So if I was going to have another one, I better darn sure have a girl. Well, when Danny was born, he was a boy. And my first thought was, I'm dead. He's dead. What's he going to do to that baby? And then I didn't care. I mean, that was my baby. That was supposedly the baby that was going to replace the one that I'd aborted. And as soon as I looked at Danny, I said, you can't. That's a boy baby. And I just knew that the baby I aborted was a girl. I'd named her Carrie and everything. It's just a different human being altogether, you know. And a whole lot of emotion on that delivery table. And Steve standing there right beside me, looking at me like, you witch, how could you do this? You're out, you know. And Dr. George handed Daniel to Steve. And from that point on, Steve spent the rest of the past 4 years trying to prove to people that he was not biased and not prejudiced, thereby becoming biased and prejudiced.
We've talked to Steve Downs in the past about some of these events. We attempted to contact him again, but his attorney wouldn't allow him to comment because of the trial. Downs knew a lengthy murder trial would make her private life public territory. She's very frank about being a surrogate mother. She ran a surrogate program in Arizona and gave birth to another couple's child. Diane lost visitation rights to her own 2 surviving children after the murder. She was found guilty of contempt of court for seeing them in a secret visit set up by her ex-husband, Steve. Police found out about the visit in a letter Downs wrote to her former boyfriend, Robert Knickerbocker, known as Nick, in Arizona. You fought for Steve to get custody of the kids, and then you wrote a letter to your former boyfriend telling him that Steve was an unfit father for your children. A lot of people won't understand that, Diane.
But Steve is different than most people. Steve pointed an empty gun at my head at one time and pulled the trigger. Do you know why? He wanted me to marry him. That is crazy. CSD, I believe, is very careful in picking out the people that care for a child that they think has been abused.
So he pulls out a gun, puts it to her head because he wants her to marry him, yet he doesn't want to have any more kids with her. That doesn't even make sense. None of this shit makes sense. Not one word. Not any of it. Wow.
And right now, they believe that Christy has been one of the most abused children in the world. Granted, she was shot, but before that, she was never abused. But they believe that that's probably true. And so they're going to put Christy in a very, very good place. And so I know that Christy's in a good home. Yeah. And so I just decided that it was better that Christy be in a safe, a mentally stable environment rather than to be with Steve. And if I had walked up to Susan Staffel and said, please don't let them go to Arizona, or if I had called Furtick and asked the same thing, they would have sent the kids, or they would. Granted, they could not send the kids. They'd make suggestions to the court as to what happens to the kids. And they would have suggested to the court that the kids go merely because I don't want them to. That means Steve and I have falling out. What better place could they be safe? Not realizing that they aren't safe from Steve even, and emotionally. And so I couldn't just count on them to cooperate with me. They haven't so far. I couldn't expect them to now. And so I had to find another way to tell them. And I know that my ex-boyfriend was a fink. He was taping for the cops. He admitted that he was every conversation that I had with him on the phone was taped and sent immediately to the DA's office. And I knew that that letter, if I sent it to him and he read it, would in fact get to the DA's office. But all the other letters that I'd been sending as of late were being returned. And so I knew that I had to do something to make that letter so enticing that he would open it.
She's crazy. Her smiling and everything. She thinks she's so friggin' smart. Wow. Like, hey, Rabbit. Have you seen this before, Rabbit? It doesn't make any sense. And you know what? It scares the shit out of me because we all know a certain creator that is just like this. And that's scary as hell. And they have a child. It's just, wow.
Downs says she felt trapped in her marriage with Steve and hoped a divorce would solve their problems.
Was there ever a time during that you thought about taking your own life and went into the bathroom with the gun and shot it? So that is indeed.
That is true. Only, no, it's not. That's a long one too. It takes many, many years of being mentally harassed, pushed into a corner. You can't go anywhere. You're trapped. It even stems from my childhood of being trapped. You know that you can't go away. You can't go someplace else. There's no place to escape to because they'll find you. They'll bring you back. You'll be punished somehow. Steve was the same type of person. He was the kind of person that, at nighttime especially, was his best time for fighting, and he would just rail on me, just fight and fight and fight, and there was no way to escape, no way at all. Well, after I got my divorce, I figured I was free of that, and I wasn't. Steve would still come to my house and still do the same thing, and this was 2 years after our divorce, and he came to my house, and I had taken a gun. He had a handgun. It was the handgun that he had put to my head, unloaded and fired.
What the hell does this have to do with anything? Any of this crap? Oh, I hear you down the rabbit hole. Yeah. That, oh my God. I've read both books, one by the prosecutor, one by I think it was Anne Rule. I could be wrong. And watching the movies, and I read everything about that case, and I can't let it go. Yeah, and that's what I feel about Katie Joy. I felt it since, I don't know, it was like maybe not even a week of watching her. I knew something was wrong. I had no idea it was this, like this. I had no idea. And it scares the shit out of me. It really does.
And I took it from him. I swiped it from him, and I hid it in my house. And it was in my bedroom. He was doing it again, and he was getting very, very physical. Steve had just beat me up 2 weeks before that, beat me up terribly. There was blood all over the place. The sheriff's department came out and made a report on it, and my nose was all bruised, my face was bruised, my chest was bruised. He had choked me. I was terrified of him. He had never done that before. And for all I knew, this was 2 weeks later, he was going to do it again. And I ran in the bathroom, I ran in the bedroom and slammed the door. And he was coming through the door anyway, so I grabbed the gun and I ran in the bathroom and locked the door. And my first thought was, I'll never escape from him. I will never, ever get away. I divorced him, and that isn't even getting away from him. It doesn't matter what I do. I'll never get away from the insanity, except just to be oblivious to it. And I considered shooting myself, but it was a .22 handgun. And Steve had said, you can't kill anybody with a .22. Surprise. There's no way you could kill somebody. You would hurt them badly. And then I thought, besides, my kids need me. I can't die.
You know, she rehearsed this story multiple times. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. That, and she is really high on herself. She thinks she's the fucking bee's knees. She thinks she can get away with murder. Like, she is that invested in herself. Oh my God. No, no, exactly, Teresa. That upset a lot of people last night. I didn't know. So thank you to Vivian for pointing that out, that they made a live, claiming that Susan Smith, Shannan Watts, and Diane Downs are absolutely identical. A trifecta. No, they're not. No, they're not. Oh, absolutely. Did she ever? Absolutely. Yes.
Then I thought maybe I should kill him. And then I said, same gun, same situation. I would hurt him. He would be furious. Then I'm really going to be in trouble. And so I said, what do I do? How do I tell him I'm serious?
The gun went off?
Yes, I fired it to scare the hell out of him. I wanted him to know that I was serious enough that if he kept this up, if he kept doing what he was doing to my mind, someday perhaps that would be pointed at a person. Not now, but someday. And I fired the gun. He went, oh my God, and he broke the door down. And I sat there and I handed him the gun and I said, now do you believe me? And he took the gun and he said, yeah, and he left.
According to police reports, Steve Downs and Robert Knickerbocker told authorities Diane left Arizona with that gun in the trunk of her car. The gun hasn't been seen since. Downs kept a diary. It was a form of solace for her. Her journal entries took the form of unmailed letters to Robert Knickerbocker. She wrote of her love for him and the day-to-day events that happened before the murder. But May 19th, night of the shootings, is blank, except for the date sketched at the top.
I don't even cry in front of my family. And I can go to my room and I can write in this diary, this record book, some of my fears. And it's really even sketchy. I don't write in a lot of detail. There are days when I'm overwhelmed with emotion, and the book will be rather emotional, but very few days. It's just sitting in front of the book and writing down little sentences and then being able to cry over it and feel emotionally everything that I don't physically write down. And it's a very good release. It's therapy in a way. It's also a way of keeping a record, because in the beginning so many things were said to me that were denied later. It's so sad.
Have you ever thought of the fact that you're writing?
She's a full-blown narcissistic, psychopathic liar. Holy shit. Oh, really, Mama Cat? Wow. Right, chicken? Like, who the hell would even it's no, like, I don't even know what to say about that. That's not even no. I don't wanna say who because then I feel like I'm freaking targeting her. No, I found this out last night that another creator was making these lives and videos and actually freaking put all 3 of them in the same category. Like, Shannan was the monster, and Chris was right to do what he did, and I'm just like, "What the fuck are you on?" They showed a letter Diane wrote to her daughter. Oh, yeah, and it was page after page. Her handwriting started out okay, but got so sloppy at the end. Yeah, I remember that. Like, how dare she even do that?
These things could be used against you or in your favor at any future time.
No, I didn't because I never thought the book would be made public.
Police seized that diary as evidence in the case. Downs is now expecting another child. She says her pregnancy takes away the feelings of loneliness in prison.
I got pregnant because I miss Christy and I miss Danny and I miss Cheryl so much. I'm never going to see Cheryl on earth again. And you can't replace children, but you can replace the effect that they give you. And they give me love, they give me satisfaction, they give me stability, they give me a reason to live and a reason to be happy. And that's gone, they took it from me. But children are so easy to conceive.
Obviously, everyone is curious who the father is, and I know you probably don't want to talk about that. Does the father know who he is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's why I won't talk about it, because he feels as privately about this child as I do.
What would you do, given this current situation, if they said, if they took away your kids, and then they went one step further and said, we think you're an unfit mother?
We're going to take away this one? I don't know how they're going to do it. What if I'd like to see them try to take this baby from me. And how? How could they do it? They're going to have to wait a long time to do it. Hopefully this thing will be cleared up by then. I don't know that they could do this, take it away after it's born. I don't know. I've never even talked to my attorney about it because it seems so, let's put it the way the DA says, it's laughable.
Downs says her
Girl, ain't nothing being cleared up by that. Look at the positivity on her face. She thinks she is the shit and she's getting away with everything. Wow. That's a psychotic asshole. Wow. If you believe Chris's story that Shannan killed the kids, I could see a link, but he killed them all, including the one in her fucking belly. She and the kids were all victims of him. Exactly. So how the hell is Shannan Watts to Susan Smith and Diane Downs? There's no connection here. Absolutely not. What the shit? Yeah. I've seen interviews of the daughter she had while in custody. How privileged of her to say that it's easy to get pregnant. How lucky for her, right? When other people are out here ain't shooting the fucking kids. Like, are you kidding me? Oh yeah, he did. He admitted it to his father. That's how the cops got Chris to admit what had happened. They sent in Chris Watts' father and he asked him what's going on, what happened, and Chris told him everything. Yeah. Easy, Daniel.
parents were shocked when they found out she was pregnant again.
My parents are the kind of people that wish you would do everything by the book in the order that it's pre-written. You get married before you have a baby. And being married is not, and never has been, I take it back. When I was young, when I was 16, 17, 18, being married was the most important thing in the world to me. And I think it's because I was raised that way. Most girls are.
Yeah.
But since that time, since my divorce, being married has been an iffy thing. I can do it if I want. I don't have to if I don't want it. And it's never been uppermost in my mind. My children are. My children always have been. And having children is, I think being a mother is the most wonderful job that any woman could perform. I die every day. When I go to bed, I cry at night. Even now, I still cry. I dream about Cheryl. I dream about Cheryl reaching out with me with her arms and always giving me a kiss and saying, I love you, I miss you, where have you been? It's almost as if she really is coming back and saying, how come you're not here with me? One time, it was right after Christy went to the foster home, I dreamed that Cheryl came to me. Well, Christy came to me. And I said, Christy, how did you find me? And she said, Cheryl brought me. And Cheryl came walking out of the shadows. And there was blood on her shirt. And I just Yeah, it was really spooky. And I said, Cheryl, I thought you were dead. She goes, no, I was faking it. I knew they were going to take Christy away and she wouldn't be able to find you, so I brought you. And then Cheryl showed us how to sneak Danny out of the hospital and everything. It was a wonderful dream. It was wonderful because we were the four musketeers and we were together again. But anyway, my dad knows how much I was grieving for the kids, and so he couldn't very well condemn the fact that I was having a child, because it's, like I said, it's not a full replacement. You can never replace a child. I tried to do that with Danny. Danny was a replacement for a child that I had aborted many, many years ago when I was quite young and foolish. And I found at that time when Danny was born that he is a person in himself. You cannot replace a child with a child. They are individuals. And this child is not to replace Cher. Never. Cheryl's always going to be with me. How could I replace her? She's still here. But it's somebody to keep me company until Chris and Dan come home. Somebody that I can love and feel and talk to. It's not like you're talking to yourself anymore. There is somebody there. And
Oh my God, this is crazy. He originally said that, yeah, he did, Mom Cat, absolutely. And then eventually he admitted to doing it all. Absolutely. Yeah, he said Shannan did it. Have this new baby to keep me company after you've tried to kill the rest, right? Ah, wow.
that's all this is. And so my dad couldn't really condemn it, even though he doesn't condone it.
Over the 9 months that passed without an arrest in this case, Downs lived with her parents in Springfield. Police reports claim Downs has changed her story about what happened the night of the shootings. They say she gave several different stories about the man who shot them when talking to her former husband or ex-boyfriend. Downs claimed afterward that 2 men were there the night of the murder, and they knew her by name. We asked her about those allegations before those police reports became public.
Did you remember that there was more than one person there that night? I mean,
No.
long after?
No. That is another thing that I suppose if you listen to the different tapes that were made, tapes by my ex-boyfriend, tapes by the sheriff's department, you would understand a psychological pattern that was being built up. It's something that I did not even understand at the time because, first of all, I trusted the cops. And even though I didn't trust the cops, I was forced into a position of saying they're the only people that really can help me. They're the only people that will try to find the person that did this. And you're trapped in a position of having to trust somebody even though you don't know if you should trust somebody.
Downs also says the children were shot inside the car. But police reports claim high-velocity blood spatters were found on the outside of the car, on the passenger side. The police found blood on the outside of the car. Could one of the children, perhaps Cheryl, have fallen out of the car on the passenger side?
The DA has come up with this idea that somebody was shot on the outside of the car, on the passenger side of the car. I was on the driver's side of the car when I was shot. And that's why it was so, it was planted. And it just seemed, I mean, it can't be real because they talk about blood spatter. And when they say spatter, I think something being shot out, like the blood spatter in the car. You know, it was so uniform. It was so regular. The same size droplets spread evenly in a pattern. And when they say spatter, that's what I thought of. And we saw pictures of this so-called spatter. It's drops. When they took the kids, they took Chris and Cher out of the driver's side of the car. And it's blood droplets. It's when they picked the kids up and carried them over the threshold, there is blood dripping down the side of the car.
But May 19th.
She is such a piece of shit. Oh my God. So-called splatter. Yeah, because the cops are going to sit there and lie about everything, right? She's the murderer, but the cops are lying. And what the hell was she doing on the floor? That was sick when she's like, and Cheryl's coming to me in my dream. Huh. Yeah, I hope she gives you nightmares.
18th is an evening that will not be forgotten by the survivors.
But the thing that really, really haunts me the most is not even the sight and the sound. I mean, the sound and the smell are fading. But at night, when I close my eyes, I can see Christy reaching her hand out to me while I'm driving. And the blood just keep coming out of her mouth. And that, maybe it'll fade too with time, but I don't think so. That haunts me the most.
Elizabeth Diane Downs is lodged in the Lane County Jail. She's charged with murdering Cheryl Downs and attempting to murder Christy and Danny Downs.
Jim was talking in court about how Danny points a gun at a family portrait and shoots at people. You did not read the part where it says that Danny is shooting Mommy and Cheryl. Simple to understand. He doesn't shoot Christy because Christy's there with him. He shoots Cheryl because everybody's told him that Cheryl's dead. Therefore, if Mommy doesn't come around, she must be dead too. And so he's shooting them because he was shot, Christy was shot, Cheryl was shot, Mommy was shot, they're dead. It's a terrible, what's happening to Danny terrifies me because maybe he's angry at, most children get angry at their parents if their parents die when they're young, and they hate them for it, and it takes many, many years to come out of it. And Danny's probably very angry at Cheryl for deserting him because, like I said, we were a close family. He could depend on Cheryl to do anything. Danny used to come running down the hall at night and climb into bed and announce, I'm sleeping with you tonight because my room's too dark. And now he can't do that. He can't run down the hall at all. He's trapped in his bed.
She is freaking delusional. Oh my God. He's pissed off at her because she tried to kill them all. She is completely nuts. Oh, the other creator. Very mild, like very mild. It'll never make sense to me what was going on there, Suzanne. No. I talked about it last night on my live. I don't know which hour though, because we were on there for a while. Drives 10 miles an hour on the way to the hospital. Yes, I remember that too. As slow as she freaking could, hoping that they would pass. Here is my theory. Yeah, easy to conceive, right? The kids were sleeping. I'm pretty sure they were sleeping. That's what I thought. Let's go for a late night ride. They're sleepy, groggy, and she puts them in the car, shoots each of them, and then herself then drives. I don't think that's a theory. I think you're spot on there. I really do. Gotcha. Go. I need to see something here. Let's go to my channel for a minute because you put the link in. Link it. I didn't mean to play that. I was looking for the other one you put in your nun. There it is. Okay. Oof. There's all the audio. My gosh, they're so long. Pearl hearing audio. Another Pearl one, part two. Oof. Yeah, it would. All Diane Downs transcripts. Everything's on one's website. Oh, good. Oh. If the hospital is where you go to get well, why, oh, why is the food so horrible? Oh no, is it that bad? Some places it is. I remember when I stayed in the hospital for it was like just over a month there. Um, it wasn't the greatest at all, but it wasn't like it was edible. Definitely had better though. Yeah, you guys hear about that? So Shill says, yeah, they were both arrested Wednesday. Ski was pulled over for no tags and taken in for warrants. Michelle got her 4th DUI. Why do you have to have 4 to let the government know or the judge know that you're nothing but a drunk piece of shit who's gonna kill somebody someday? 4 DUIs? Nah, she should have got 1 and that's it, that's all. You're told before you drive, you're not supposed to drink and drive at all. No. She's gonna kill somebody. Right? The sheriff being in her pocket? Looks good on them both. They're both disgusting. Ugh. All right, let's see. What is this? No, get rid of that. Cart TV. I'm not watching that one. Ugh. Nancy Grace, she's a hit and miss for me.
This Black Friday weekend, save up to 70% on Hall.
This morning, we're shining a spotlight on the case of Susan Smith. She was convicted back in 1995 for the murders of her 2 young boys. And next year, the murder mom is up for parole, but her family is not offering much support, saying they're not interested in helping her. And her
Gets
ex-husband, David,
marriage
says he
proposals
plans
from
to file an
prison,
affidavit
really?
urging the parole board to keep her locked
Yeah,
up.
she's
Wow, she's not getting support from her family. The ones that used to love her, well, she's got lots of folks that love her right.
that 4th DUI should never even happen. That is some bullshit right there. No, I hope they don't let her out. That's she's gonna kill somebody. Literally. They tried to give me turkey and stuffing and it was dry and stuffing was like styro. Oh no. That sucks. She needs to be there. You don't want to know who they are. They're nobodies. They used to have channels. They're really, really, really bad, dangerous people. Like really bad. Yeah, you're better off. Hey, FWI. She claims she was like after 6 hours. I'll post a link to a parody channel that's just for Michelle. It's been fun, ladies, but my bed's not going to make it so. Good night, Suzanne.
Right now, she's been corresponding with about a half a dozen suitors. One man calling Smith, "Dearest Pookie," sent this letter in August. "Been thinking of you and miss you so much. Hoping I can do something for you soon. Anyways, feels like it's been so long since we talked." Later concluding, "Love you so much. It hurts. Your Pookie." Another man allegedly offered Smith a place to live if she is indeed granted parole. Let's break it down with a guy that knows this case very well, the man who prosecuted Susan Smith. Tommy Pope with us. Good morning, sir. Let's start with her chances at parole. Your thoughts?
I always said I'd never get a job in Vegas handicapping because it's hard to know. If you look at her.
I don't even want this now. I want to get to the point of why she's not anything like at all with Shannan Watts. The Susan Smith story or Susan Smith documentary. I still want to get like a. Look at them babies. Oh my God.
She murdered her children, then lied to the world.
I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't do anything but think about it.
For 9 days, the nation searched in vain.
Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of her children.
She slammed the door on him and let him roll. Deliberately, premeditated.
She is a nut job.
Michael Adams.
Very terrible actress. Hey. Which evil women? I got 2 on here. Diane Downs was the first one, and this Susan Smith is the second one. I know about both of them very well. I've got both books I've read. So if you guys want me to read them on my channel, I absolutely will. They're great. They're well done. Yeah, I wouldn't complain either. Just, yeah, that's just who we are. Get boomed by Michelle.
Union, South Carolina. They call it the City of Hospitality.
This show here, I used to watch this show every day when I was working at the hotel as a housekeeper, and I'd always turn the TV on and always watch American Justice. I absolutely love this show. I like Billy's awesome. I know, but no, they gotta. It's like the whole motto they stand by. Like, if I can't have them, no one can. If I can't have you, no one can. You know what I mean? With those crazy bitches. Exactly. What mom would let a man drive off with their two babies without putting up a fight? That was the giveaway to me. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to do the new clips. I just want to show like I know we all know what she's done, just kind of remind people. So now that I've showed like Diane Downs, we're gonna do the Susan Smith, and then we're gonna do a little recap on Shannan Watts. So I can prove my point, as all of our point is, there's no way in hell that she is like these two women. That's fucked up. Really fucked up to say that.
A typical small town where neighbors know one another and life revolves around family and religion. Downtown, only 5 blocks long, is quiet on Sundays, except for the occasional passing train and the ringing of church bells. The nearby textile mills provide steady work for many Union residents. And 60 miles of highway and winding back roads isolate the town from the dangers of the nearest big city, Columbia. Around 3:30 p.m. on October 25th, 1994, Susan Vaughn Smith left the Conzo Products Company, a fabric trim and tassel manufacturer, where she worked as a secretary. She was upset. Her boyfriend, Tom Findlay, the son of the company owner, had recently ended their relationship. At the time, Susan was separated from her husband, David, and had been dating Findlay for a few months. The late afternoon air was beginning to chill as the 23-year-old Smith arrived at the daycare center to pick up her 2 young children, 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex. Unable to get thoughts of her boyfriend out of her head, she stopped at a tavern on her way home, where she sat in the parking lot talking to a friend from work. She then returned to the office with her kids, hoping to patch things up with Tom. Her efforts failed. At around 6 p.m., Smith finally arrived at her small house on the northern edge of town. After making the boys a dinner of pizza, Susan called her friend at the tavern to see if Tom Findlay was there, and if he had mentioned her name. He was, but he had not. Between 7:30 and 8 p.m., Smith
Here I am yapping, being muted again. Sorry. What I was saying was Diane Downs, what she's done to her kids was absolutely horrific. I think this story's worse. Because these two boys both passed, and it was, oh my God, I couldn't imagine sitting in that car. Those two babies sitting in that car, not knowing what to do, and then drown. Like, what a fucking horrific death. How could you do that? At least that other bitch shot hers. I don't know. I just don't understand. I'll never understand. We'll never understand because of the fact that we aren't these people. Have you seen the videos that showed what it would have been? Yes, I did. That's what I'm, yeah. I don't want to show it, but yeah. It ended up coming up. I grew up watching AJ with my American Justice with my dad. Bill's voice takes me back. To be technical, right? I love this guy. I used to watch this all the time. It was one of my favorite crime shows. This is one of the ones that got me into crime and true crime, and just like the show A Haunting, and it was on the Discovery Channel. That's what got me into paranormal shows and all that stuff, like way back when. Yeah. I sound like I'm freaking like 80. I agree. The older child was holding the little one's hand. Yeah. Oh, that one. That one too. Oof. Both stories are horrific. This one here is just worse.
Strapped her two sons into their car seats in the back of her 1990 Mazda Protege. She would later say she thought a drive through the countryside might help clear her head. That she stopped at Walmart to do some shopping, and then got back into the car, intending to drive to a friend's house, but she never made it there. According to the story Smith would later tell, she was stopped at a traffic light behind the Monarch Mill textile plant, 2 miles from quiet Main Street, where a black man broke into her car with a gun in hand. "Drive or I'll kill you," Susan would later report the man as saying. Panicked, Smith said she did as she was told. They drove east on Highway 49, she said, away from downtown Union, the gun pressed against her ribs, the boys crying in the back seat. After about 10 minutes, they reached the access road to John D. Long Lake. Susan said the man abruptly told her to stop the car and get out, then stuck the gun to her side. Smith said she pleaded frantically for her children, but the black man pushed her out of the car and drove off with Michael and Alex. She ran to the nearest house, sobbing and crying for help. The family called 911.
You must think that maybe Susan Smith learned from Diane Downs, because Diane Downs was 84, this one's 94, exactly 10 years later. They both blamed a black man that stole their car with their babies in it. That makes absolutely no sense. Like, what? What?
Did he have any weapons, gun, anything? He's got a gun. Got a gun. Yes, ma'am.
Within minutes, Union Sheriff Howard Wells was on the scene. He immediately notified the FBI and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, known as SLED, a highly trained state police investigating unit. They dispatched agents to Union to assist the sheriff in the search for the alleged carjacker. Soon after, the boy's father, David Smith, rushed to Susan's side.
When I got there, she was hysterical. I had to literally pick her up off the floor and take her into the other room and sit down with her on the couch.
Later that night, David called his father.
I said, she ain't holding the bumper. I would have, they wouldn't have drove off with my kids. I was something when that car would have still been in my hand and he drove off, But there was never any doubt, in his mind that the kids were kidnapped. I believed Susan. As I've stated before, 100%, completely. Never beyond that I didn't believe her beyond a shadow of a doubt, never.
David, like most people in Union, believed Susan Smith's story. By the next morning, word of the kidnapping had spread rapidly. Many residents would dedicate countless hours to a 9-day search for Michael and Alex Smith. A search that would end not in the safe return of the boys, but in the exposure of a lie that would shock the nation.
On the surface, there was little reason to doubt Susan Smith's story. By all accounts, she was a dutiful and loving mother. In high school, she had been a member of the National Honor Society and was voted friendliest girl by her classmates. But as the search began for the two little boys, the image of their tearful mother pleading for their safe return turned into a sickening lie. Police would later learn that 5 days before the disappearance of her boys, Smith had said to a friend, "I wonder what life would be like if I didn't have kids."
From the moment Susan Smith reported her children missing, a nationwide search began for her car. In South Carolina, officials, led by State Police Chief Robert Stewart, began a parallel investigation, as is commonplace, in cases of child abduction. They questioned both Susan and David Smith, while following up on other leads about the supposed black carjacker. One of the problems
So that just makes me angry even more. Like the fact that they both blame black guys. You know what I mean? Like they have a bad enough rap as it is. All black people do as it is. And of course, their go-to is a fucking black guy. Really? So of course the cops are going to believe it, especially in the 80s and 90s. I believe he has remarried and has children. I can't imagine trying to move on after that, but good for him. Yeah, I do. I think you are right too. I've never really looked him up. This story I will never forget. Those precious little boys. I will have their precious faces. It's etched in my memory forever. And they were, oh my God, they're holding hands. What an evil, evil animal she is. Yeah, like it's hard.
Complicating the search was that the description Susan Smith had provided for the composite drawing of the carjacker was so generic, it raised suspicion.
Of course, it had to be acted on because you had children's lives at stake. But over a period of a couple of days, we had some real concerns with that and with the concerns if it was false, that it would cause in the community. And we tried to be very careful how we acted on that in conducting interviews of subjects based on her description.
A reporter with WIS-TV in Columbia, South Carolina, Heather Hoops, drove to Union to cover the story.
Discussion started right away about that composite and how vague it was and how it described half the people in Columbia and should we use it and what should be done. And eventually we pulled it off the air.
But the search for the carjacker and the little boys went on. The residents did their part. They assisted police by printing thousands of missing posters, distributing photos, tying yellow ribbons around mailboxes and telephone poles, and scouting wooded areas on horseback. Local and national media descended on Union and beamed the story around the world. Before long, Susan appeared with her husband David to make a tearful plea for the return of their children.
I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't do anything but think about them. And I just want to hug them so bad and tell them I love them.
But doubts about Smith's sincerity grew rapidly.
There were never any tears from either of those fuckers. Not one. Again, just like Katie Joy. She cries with no tears. That's not crying. Not even at crocodile tears. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I admit, I know, like, I am an empath, and I'm almost too, I will say I'm too sensitive sometimes. Absolutely. I've taken things out of context. I've also taken things, like, seriously when, I don't know, like, someone's having a little joke or something, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, how could you say that about me? Or did I really? Oh my God, I think too much. But ah, I just don't know how someone can openly talk about their own children being so-called kidnapped when they know what they actually did to their own fucking kids. I will never understand it.
On the second day of the search, she took a lie detector test and failed. In an attempt to get a quick confession, police confronted Smith and accused her of being involved in the disappearance of Michael and Alex.
She immediately became belligerent, cursed the agent, and that was the end of it. So we knew she was the kind of person that we would have to very easily work into a confession. You couldn't intimidate her into it.
Nor could the authorities call off the search. Sheriff Wells, the FBI, and police kept on checking the hundreds of leads that came in every day. Susan and David Smith stayed with their families at the home of Susan's mother and stepfather, Linda and Beverly Russell, waiting anxiously for news.
It was very long days, waiting out at the Russells, watching people come in, watching people go. You're like on a roller coaster, up and down, because there's so much hearsay.
On the third day of the search, there seemed to be a breakthrough. A car matching the description of Susan's Mazda was spotted in North Carolina. But it was not her car. In vain, divers searched the waters of John D. Long Lake from the shoreline to 100 feet out. And the FBI searched Susan's house, but came up with nothing. After almost a week of silence, Susan and David Smith appeared before the television cameras once again.
I want to say to my babies that your mama loves you so much, and your daddy, these whole families love you so much. And you guys have got to be strong, because you are. I just know, I just feel in my heart that you're okay, but you got to take care of each other. And your mom and dad are going to be right here waiting on you when you get home.
As the daily interrogations of Susan proceeded, police discovered inconsistencies in her story. The greeters.
Like, holy shit. Wow. No actual tears. Oh, have a good night, Triple. One thing that always stands out about these stories is the hundreds of man-hours in police, FBI search dogs, and all the community. The aftermath takes a severe toll on all of them, as they all had hope of rescuing those precious boys. Yeah, absolutely. Every single one. Casey Anthony, Diane Downs, this one. There's so many, so many. And every damn time. Like, this is why the authorities look within until they look outside. Because of this shit. This shit right here. These sick motherfuckers right there. Hey, Navajo Blondie, I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Yeah, no, there's no emotion. Because, I don't know. I can't handle stuff like this. I don't know why I do it. But I think, well, I don't know. I don't understand people.
At Walmart didn't remember seeing her on the night of October 25th. The friend Susan claimed she was going to visit wasn't even home that evening. And there were more.
She said there were no other cars in the intersection, no possible witnesses there, when in fact, that light will only turn red for the direction she was traveling if there was cross traffic.
On day 8, Smith changed her written statement when police confronted her with new reasons why her version of the supposed abduction didn't add up.
It was like an elaborate chess match. She'd make a move, we'd make a move, until it finally got resolved.
The national media was now increasingly skeptical.
I would do live shots for stations around the country, and they were asking the question, well, hey, did they think the mom did it? It was a question that was on a lot of people's minds. Susan said things like, I loved them, I really did. Well, that's past tense. I mean, are they dead? Do you know something we don't?
On the 9th day of the search, Susan and David appeared on all 3 national network morning news programs, declaring their innocence and pleading for the return of Michael and Alex.
My first reaction is it hurts to know that that I would be accused or even thought that I would ever do anything to harm my children. As a mother, it's only a natural instinct to protect your children from any harm. And the hardest part of this whole ordeal is not knowing if your children are getting what they need to survive. And it hurt. It hurts real bad.
Later that morning, Susan met with police behind a local church at a recreation center. Smith, worn down by day after day of intensive interrogations and relentless media scrutiny, finally broke down. It was in this small windowless room at about 2 p.m. on Thursday, November 3rd, that a tearful Susan Smith begged Sheriff Wells for his gun. She told Wells her children were not all right and fell to the floor sobbing. She said that the car and the children were at the bottom of John D. Long Lake. Divers found the car 122 feet from the shore, upside down, under 18 feet of water. Through the murky darkness, the beam of a diver's flashlight illuminated a small hand pressed against the window. As the car was pulled from the water, the bodies of Michael and Alex were visible through the side windows. Back at the church, Susan Smith was allowed to prepare an unusual.
Oh my God, I remember that. I forgot though until now, until I seen it. Oh my God, the hand. When I was in high school, I worked with the police and we're friends with a lot of them. My junior year, classmate parents and sister were shot and killed. Oh my God. Absolutely, Hank. Yep. Oh, don't leave me. For many things, in part of the investigation was him, another person who was in the police program, was telling things she overheard that police.
Confession.
They wanted to get something in writing, but they didn't want to get into a situation with a confrontation to the point where they could get nothing in writing. So that's why she was allowed to, at that point, just write out her account of what happened.
In her written confession, Susan Smith claimed that she was suicidal on the evening of October 25th, that she was living in what she called a vale of tears. Not wanting her children to live without a mother, Smith said she was planning to kill herself and take her children with her. After driving around Union for over an hour, she pulled into the access.
think Shirley did take a page out of Diane Downs' book because she was saying that she was suicidal now too. Really. She was actively messing up their investigation. I went to the police and told them. Good. I just don't understand people.
Road at John D. Long Lake. She let her car roll down the boat ramp, but soon stopped it by pulling up the emergency brake. Later, she got out of the car, released the brake, and let it roll down the ramp into the water. That evening, Sheriff Wells made the shocking announcement.
Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of her children, Michael 3 and Alexander 14 months.
I was heartbroken. It was a sickening feeling that I've never experienced in my life before. I felt empty. I felt hollow. I felt betrayed.
Later that night, as the car was removed from the lake, the bodies of her 2 children remained in their car seats, grossly deformed from being underwater for 10 days.
South Carolina decided to pursue the death penalty against Susan Smith. Her defense attorney would say that execution made no sense, since Susan wanted to die. And the worst punishment she could face was having to live with what she had done. Back in a moment.
The nation was stunned by the deaths of Michael and Alex Smith. Even more shocking was that the confessed murderer was also their mother. Crime statistics indicate that more than 1,000 children in the U.S. are killed each year by their parents. Susan Smith, having waived her right to a bond hearing, sat in jail as thousands of people streamed into the funeral home for the closed casket visitation of her 2 little boys. On Sunday, November 6, 1994, Michael and Alex were buried, their 2 small bodies placed in the same casket.
It was heart-wrenching. I mean, that was a tough one.
Oh my God, like the husband's face. That is insane. That poor guy. Can you imagine the public outrage? I don't know. I almost feel like you should, like, yeah, sure. In a court of law, they let the jury, decide the verdict and blah, blah, blah. I think you just fucking hand him to the wolves. You want to do that to your own children? Really? Have fun defending yourself with all the people, all the manpower, everything that you've destroyed lives. Let the mob deal with them. Like I almost, like they should have with Casey Anthony. But then I'm like, well, I don't want to have that hate and anger feelings, and it's not right either if we did that. But it's like, fuck, you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, Mama Cat. And rightfully so. When people do this, the whole community is involved because everybody's looking for those precious boys. All these women that done that, they're looking for their children. The community wants to get involved. They want to help. Of course they would. Anybody in the right mind would. Absolutely. If there was say if there was someone even 4 hours away from me and there was like a kid missing and they needed help and I was able to go, I'd be gone. If I had to stay up all night, all day, I'd be there. If there was something I can do, I would be there. I would let my son know what I was doing and have him stay with his father, and I would go. My son more than want to come with me, but I wouldn't take him. He's too young for that. He's 12. Oh, that was another fuck up on the lost part. That one was American woman from Houston, Texas, who confessed to drowning her 5 children. He cheats everyone. Oh my God, she was told. The doctor said she can't have no more kids, and he was saying that to her, as well as, and the husband kept pushing her to have those kids. Same with her priest. It's like, no, there's something not right up here, man. And she killed all of them, one after another. Now that one, I do believe, Andrea Yates, I do believe that she had some severe mental disorders. She did not want to have kids, and she was pressured by both people, the priest and her husband. I believe it was the doctor that was the only one on her side, telling her that she should not have no more kids. He even told the husband, she cannot have no more kids. So that's one story I do Yeah, I'm not gonna blame her. I do believe there was something wrong there, and she didn't want any more kids, and just the fact that she was being forced to do that, how could you not know something was wrong when you have got even two? One, it'd be like, fuck. Two, that's a little strange. Three, four, five? Are you kidding me? Did you really? Oh my gosh. There's so many.
I mean, I don't think there was a dry eye. It was 7 miles from the church to the funeral, and by the time we got to the burial site, the cars were still coming out of the church. It was the hardest thing I ever had to go through.
With the arrest of Susan Smith, the town of Union began to mourn as quickly as it had rallied to Susan's side. The yellow ribbons that had been tied to trees and lampposts were replaced with blue and white ones as a remembrance of the boys. The boat ramp at John D. Long Lake was transformed into a shrine for Michael and Alex. Overnight, the love for Susan Smith turned to hatred.
They originally wanted 7 kids. Oh my god. Did you see that? She just got thrown in that car, and rightfully fucking so. I need to rewind that.
Overnight, the love for Susan Smith turned to hatred.
You need to cry. They were ready to lynch her. I think the whole country was. They didn't have any answers for what she did. They couldn't understand how she would do something like this to their family member, and they wanted her hide.
Many in the town of Union felt betrayed by Susan Smith, especially members of the African American community, since Smith had chosen to falsely blame a black man for the crime. On December 12th, Susan was indicted on 2 charges of murder. On January 16th, the Union County Solicitor, Tommy Pope, who would prosecute the Smith case, announced his decision to seek the death penalty.
State of South Carolina hereby serves you with notice that the state intends to seek the death penalty in the above captioned case. State versus Susan Smith, indicted for murder. Alleged that Susan Smith did in Union County on or about October 25th, 1994, feloniously, willfully, and with malice aforethought, killed one Alexander Tyler Smith by means of drowning, and said victim died as a result thereof. State of South Carolina versus Susan Smith, indicted for murder. And indicted alleged Susan Smith did in Union County on or about October 25th, 1994, feloniously, willfully, and with malice aforethought, killed one Michael Downs.
Look at that. Still no tears. Absolutely no tears, and she's being sentenced right now. She has no tears, not even for herself. Now that says something.
Daniel Smith, by means of drowning, said victim died as a result thereof.
Smith was appointed a public defender named Judy Clark. Susan's mother and stepfather mortgaged their house to hire a second defense attorney with experience in death penalty cases, David Bruck.
The death penalty is, for her, beside the point. She says over and over again that she wishes she could just die so that she wouldn't have to hurt anymore.
Judge William Howard, who would preside over the case, set the ground rules in a number of pretrial hearings. He started by imposing a gag order on everyone involved in the case, ruling that cameras would be banned from the courtroom.
At the same time, the Simpson case was being tried and had started several months earlier, so we had the benefit of seeing what was going on out there. I felt every time I came into the courtroom that the level of anxiety that I saw was greater than I had seen before, and that it was affecting the way people were.
Yeah. That's one case I do truly believe, because I do not believe for a fact that Andrea would have ever done that if she was not forced to have all these children, and she was. Abortion was a sin. If she was pregnant, oh well. The husband still wanted to have them, and it was just, I do feel really awful for her. Definitely having a severe psychosis, absolutely. Yes, Mama Cat. Yeah. That's what I mean. She was being forced to have all these children, and she didn't want to. Hey, Marcy. Oh, I love this show, American Justice. Yeah, I really like it. I can't stand the topic. I do, however, like him in this.
Were addressing the issues, the time that was involved.
The media coverage had been so intense, many believed it would be impossible to find a fair and impartial jury at Union. Under the law, defense attorney David Bruck could have requested a change of venue, but he decided that a local jury would most likely work to Smith's favor.
The prosecution's image of her was of a non-human, a Beelzebub-like character, of just unimaginable coldness and evil. And I thought it would be easier to sell that to a jury of strangers somewhere across the state than to a jury in Union County, because they would be asked to believe that this diabolical figure had grown up in their midst for 23 years and no one had noticed.
Jury selection began on Monday, July 10th. By Saturday, 9 men and 3 women had been chosen. 4 jurors were black and 8 white. Judge Howard sequestered them in a nearby hotel. He had set the stage for speedy and efficient justice. In comparison to the O.J. Simpson criminal trial, which took 9 months to reach a verdict, the fate of Susan Smith would be known in only 17 days.
With the guilty verdict all but inevitable, the real question in the courtroom was whether Susan Smith would face the death penalty. Next, the defense, with a clever move, takes control of the trial.
The trial of Susan Smith began on July 17, 1995. It might have been a simple one, but the prosecution made what some believe was a major blunder. They decided to try and show why the defendant killed her 2 sons, even though the law did not require that they prove a motive, and they could have won without doing so.
Does anybody know? I never heard anything of it because I've never, like, I've read the book and everything, but I mean, I wonder through the years, did she ever, I'm assuming she was in protective custody because cases like this, she'd be attacked and killed. I'm just wondering, was she ever attacked? I'm just wondering, like her, Diane Downs, or any of these pieces of shit. I know one mother that was a long time. Like not a long time. She got her ass kicked a lot. And that was, oh, you guys probably heard of it. I watched it on Netflix. It was probably one of the hardest cases to watch. Gabriel Fernandez. That one. Wow. I've watched it 3 times. That one, yeah. That one really struck. Anyways, his so-called mother got attacked and keeps getting attacked, and I don't care. I really don't, after what she did to that boy and what her boyfriend did to that boy. Are you kidding? The boys ran away of her beautiful love affair. Yeah. Rarest of the 5 motives. I do too, Hank. And that damn priest.
Each day, the Union Courthouse was packed. Many more waited outside for a chance to get inside.
Not much of a mother. Whatever they do to her can't be enough. Anybody that could drown her babies, any mother could drown her babies, there's nothing to her.
Those who did get inside wouldn't hear Susan Smith speak. State psychiatrists had testified that although Smith was competent to stand trial, she was suicidal and might sabotage her own defense. Under South Carolina law, death penalty trials are divided into 2 parts. The first determines guilt or innocence. The second decides the punishment. The guilt phase of the Smith trial was essentially an open and shut case for the prosecution. In a written confession, Smith had admitted she had let her car roll into the lake with her children strapped in the back seat. There was little chance that Susan Smith would be found anything but guilty.
We didn't feel that there was any defense of the murder charge at all. So the best thing and the worst thing were the same thing, is we felt like there was going to be a murder conviction. The fact that within minutes of this crime she was telling a lie about what had happened to her children made it quite clear that she knew that it was wrong to have killed her children, and that, or at least that she would get in trouble for it. And that's the end of any insanity defense.
But the state wasn't taking any chances.
The defendant had extremely capable attorneys. They would test and they would push against our case. And if they met with resistance, they'd say, well, we're not contesting that. But if it was soft, I can guarantee you they would continue to push right through it. And so part of our job that a lot of people never realized was making sure that every I was dotted and every T was crossed on each and every step.
As part of their thorough approach, prosecutors began the case with a motive. They argued that Susan Smith murdered her children in order to win back her wealthy boyfriend, Tom Finley, who was known throughout Union as the most eligible bachelor, lived in his family's mansion, worked for his father's company, and was Susan Smith's ticket to the good life. Much of the prosecution's case revolved around a letter that Finley had sent to Smith a week before the murders. In the letter, he outlined the reasons why he was ending their brief relationship. One of them was her children. Finley wrote, "There are some things about you that aren't suited for me. And yes, I am speaking about your children. I'm sure your kids are good kids, but it really wouldn't matter how good they may be. The fact is, I just don't want children."
When you've got a letter that says, you know, we could be together, but I'm not ready to have kids, I mean, you know, it's pretty clear cut as I see it.
Can you imagine that? The person you're cheating on your husband with is telling you that they don't want children, and that's basically why they're not going to be together, so she decides she's going to drown them. Like, really? That's her solution? To even come to that conclusion, you have to be really fucked in the head. Your 11th B-Day, you did hear about that? So there was something. Sex scandals? I wouldn't doubt it. Actually, I believe that. Her phone calls. Yeah, lamb chop, I have. Yeah. I have the movie, actually. That is what you're talking about, right? I do have that movie. Have you guys ever heard of the Gabriel Fernandez? Wow. It's on Netflix. It's like I can't remember how many, I don't remember how many it is. It's like no, I think it's 2 seasons. It's very well made. However, you're gonna have to have like strong willpower to watch it. It's really fucking bad. You don't remember? She was hooking, yeah. You say, I was gonna say something like that. Like, let me guess. You don't remember? I'll finish playing this and I'll show you what I mean.
Under South Carolina law, the prosecution did not need to prove a motive to win a conviction in a murder case. They only had to prove it was premeditated by a mere second. Smith had conceded that in her own confession when she wrote, "I did go partway down the ramp, but I stopped. I went again and stopped. Then I got out of the car. I dropped to the lowest, but I allowed my children to go down that ramp into the water without me."
Really, the state was going to get a murder conviction just for showing up. She had confessed to capital murder. We knew that the confession was not going to be thrown out. However, the state made the decision to try to prove motive at the guilt phase. We expected them to do it. We thought it was a mistake, but we thought it was a mistake they were going to make, and they did.
A mistake, according to Bruck, because it opened the door for the defense to present its own counter-argument about Smith's motive. That she was not a cold, evil killer, but a loving, immature, and troubled mother who could not cope with life. That the deaths of Michael and Alex were actually a result of Smith's botched attempt to commit suicide. An argument for which there was some evidence in Susan's past, according to the spokesman for the hospital, that evaluated Smith's mental fitness to stand trial.
That's one thing I hate about these cases is how the defense can flat out make shit up. How is that okay? The proof is there. She killed her kids to be with her fucking fling. She's a whore, clearly, because she's banging guards. Like, that's what that type of woman is. Even then, she was cheating on her husband, killed her kids to be with him, and it still didn't work out for her. That's the type of person, she feels no empathy. Absolutely not. She's narcissistic. And for them to get to make up shit, just like Jose Baez did with Casey Anthony, really pissed me off. I thought you were supposed to stick to the facts, not like pull a Katie Joy and speculate. They have no proof. You can't just say shit like that. Like, that really upsets me. Can't you tell?
Susan had been suicidal in high school to the point that she was briefly hospitalized in a psychiatric unit. Her father had committed suicide, and we know that individuals whose parent commit suicide, they're higher risk for suicide. These facts are brought out in the trial. Also, she had depression. It's plausible that she was very depressed that evening. She had been trying to get Tom's attention. He had been turning her off. This was very important to her.
Now that the door had been opened by the state, the defense walked right through it, presenting evidence of depression and alcoholism in Susan's family tree. The impact of her father's suicide when Susan was only 6 years old. And most shocking, the admission of sexual abuse by Susan's stepfather, Beverly Russell, head of Union County's Christian Coalition and chairman of its Republican Party. His abuse had begun when Susan was 15. The most recent incident was 3 months before the drowning of Michael and Alex.
We had the opportunity to show that on the available evidence, suicide was a much more likely motivating factor than a premeditated, cold, deliberate substitution of her children in favor of this remote chance of snaring a rich boyfriend.
So it brought out sort of the good with the bad. It toned it down and made it into a much more complex emotional case right from the start, instead of allowing the state to portray it in a very stark, evil way and then have the defense try to reconstruct it in a different setting. The defense took control of the case with the state's first witness and never let go of it from that point on.
Because the defense was arguing that Susan's abusive past made her suicidal, but did not make her mentally ill, the prosecution was not allowed to have its own psychiatrists examine her.
That's one thing that makes those abuse defenses extremely difficult, at least under the structure of our law in South Carolina. It's the lack of an opportunity for the state. You know, you're basically using the defense of something unusual in the defendant's mind, but then you don't give us a chance to peer into their mind. It's almost like you putting up a witness and getting to get direct examination, but not allowing me to cross-examine them.
The defense psychiatrist did say Susan intended to kill herself and, quote, take her children with her, a point which the prosecutors really jumped on, saying, well, she didn't commit suicide, and you can't suicide a child. Now, it's plausible that someone could decide to commit suicide and take the children with them. This has occurred in other instances. However, her method here of committing, quote, suicide is very unusual. There are so many opportunities to get out. Now, her kids are strapped into the car seats. I mean, whatever's going to happen is going to certainly happen for them unless she rescues them.
The defense psychiatrist conceded something else about Susan Smith that for some members of the jury proved her guilt beyond any doubt.
His testimony led me to believe, yes, she is guilty. He said that she understood right from wrong. The way she made decisions was not rational, but she understood that it was wrong what she did. So she should be held accountable for what she did.
After a week of testimony, it took the jury only 2.5 hours to come back with a verdict. Guilty of 2 counts of murder, a verdict that didn't surprise anyone. But the defense had won a victory as well. It had presented evidence about Smith that might sway the jury against the punishment the prosecution was so eager to achieve: the death penalty.
To that end, the state would produce an unusual videotape that showed just how Susan Smith had drowned her 2 sons. The prosecutors wanted to prove to the jury that Smith had almost 6 minutes in which he still could have saved them. Back in a moment.
You tell us at aetv.com. On July 24th, the penalty phase of the Susan Smith trial began.
6 minutes. I remember that. 6 damn minutes. Thank you, Nun Nun. That's awesome. Thank you. Oh. I know how you spend years in college to become a lawyer, only to use the degree to get people like this off of how do they deal with their, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, absolutely no boundaries. Garnet, it rings a bell, but I'm not familiar. I know that name, I'm just not familiar. Good. Welcome to becoming a new member, Hank. A lot of other people got memberships. I don't want to say like name out loud or anything, though, because they aren't chatting in the chat, but welcome.
with graphic and emotional testimony from both sides. The prosecution, in its bid for the death penalty, would visually recreate the deaths of Michael and Alex Smith. And the defense, in an effort to keep Susan Smith off death row, would use her friends and family to explore the most painful events of her life. The defense also had another argument against executing Smith.
I think it was clear that that life would be a more severe punishment for her because she loves those children. It sounds strange to say, but she did. And the full horror of what she had done weighed on her more heavily than on anybody else. And it was obvious I was going to stay with her for the rest of her life. The longer her life, the more she was going to hurt. And so the idea of the death penalty as retribution didn't really ring true for Susan.
But the prosecution was about to present a very compelling piece of evidence, hoping to sway the jury in its favor. In the months before the trial, Tommy Pope had prepared a video showing what would happen if a car like Susan's was allowed to roll down the boat ramp and sink in John D. Long Lake. The recreation was videotaped from the shore, while another camera was mounted in the car, roughly where Michael and Alex were sitting.
You got in your mind, well, it'll occur this way, or a car will drop like a rock, or it'll float forever, all the different things. And ultimately, the byproduct of the testing, in addition to telling us some things about flotation characteristics, it gave us an internal view of how that car filled up with water, and basically gave us a view of what Michael and Alex would have been facing as the means of their death.
The defense objected to the video and requested that Judge Howard not let the jury see it. They claimed that the daylight and the divers floating in the water next to the car gave a false sense of rescue that Susan Smith, alone in the dark, would not have had. But the judge allowed it.
In the overall sense, what you're evaluating is relevance, whether or not something is relevant. When I looked at it, what was apparent was that within the car, the water coming up was much more slowly rising than it appeared from the exterior of the vehicle. Again, relevant now on the issue of just what could have been done to save the children and how long was the time frame in which something could have been done. And so it was at that point that I thought it really was relevant in that sentencing setting.
The jury sat and watched as it took the water almost 6 minutes to reach the level of the car's interior camera.
That was kind of emotional for me. I didn't realize it would take a car that long to sink. Was it 5 minutes, 52 seconds, something like that? And they took all the sound away. What made it even more eerie, they took all the sound away in the courtroom. You just sitting there watching that car float out in the water. It was really emotional.
David and I watched the reenactment. It was not shown to the court. We could sit and we watched it in the reflection of the windows because they had the blinds were drawn behind the jury, and we could sit there and watch it. It was very hard. It was heart-wrenching to watch that car just bob, and the front drop down and watch the car, because we just knew, you could visualize Michael and Alex sitting there upside down, strapped in, nothing they could do.
Perhaps equally hard to watch was the testimony of the boy's father, David Smith, who described the monumental loss he had suffered when his children were murdered by his estranged wife.
Basically, what we did was bring Michael and Alex back to life through David's testimony, with him telling about taking to the park and all the things that he'd done, and then having him relive their death. That's the first time in my career I'd ever broken down after testimony, and I talked to him and basically apologized to him for doing what we just had to do.
David's testimony had the courtroom in tears. Even Susan Smith, who throughout the trial had avoided all contact with her husband, whispered her apologies as she left.
She walked by and said, "I'm sorry." David just said it just infuriated him inside. He was emotionally drained at that moment. It just infuriated him. She isn't sorry. I don't think she's sorry to this day.
The defense, hoping to counter the prosecution's emotional testimony, called friends, family, and social workers to testify on Susan's behalf. Her stepfather, Beverly Russell, took the stand, assuming responsibility for his sexual abuse of Smith and taking part of the blame for her actions.
The victim impact, so-called, ended up being much more in Susan's favor, because while David testified about his love for the children, so did everybody on Susan's side who were testifying for her. And it became clear that a death sentence was only going to increase the misery of the people who loved Michael and Alex Smith.
The jury agreed. On July 28th, after only 2.5 hours of deliberation, they unanimously voted to sentence Susan Smith to life in prison.
It was either death or life or innocent. So she obviously was not innocent. And I'd already made my mind up that based on the whole case, the death penalty wasn't warranted. So that was the only choice left.
I couldn't think it was all her fault. I mean, it was, when it come right down to it, she was the one that she the one that committed murder, but several things leading up to that she could have been helped before all this came about.
The people that were closest to her probably could have helped her before then if they had chosen to, but they didn't. And so she was left to keep going in the wrong direction with no help.
Susan Smith was remanded to the Women's Correctional Center in Columbia, South Carolina. Under state law, she is eligible for parole after serving 30 years. For the defense team, it was a victory that spared Susan Smith's life. For the father of the victims, nothing short of death would have been justice.
Well, first of all, me and my family, of course, are disappointed that the death penalty wasn't the verdict, but the jury, again, we respect that they took the testimony among themselves and they came back with the verdict of life, and so they returned the verdict they thought was justice. Of course, like I said, we are disappointed, but it wasn't our choice on what penalty she was to receive.
American justice had rendered its verdict, but it's not the business of the law to answer the far tougher question of why a mother would murder her own children.
I can't say that any theory of why this horrible happened makes sense, because murdering children like that love not make sense. And we're really left just looking at what explanation was, made more sense than any other, was less crazy than any other. Her confession said that she was trying to kill herself and to take the children with her in her disordered thinking, so they'd be in heaven and be happy and leave this veil of tears. And that's the way people who are acutely depressed sometimes think in a suicidal moment.
She made a conscious decision to stop, to get out, and to still make the car go on in the lake with 2 kids in the back. You know what I mean? It wasn't these random, I have to somehow save myself. You can armchair quarterback it to death now, but I really think that, again, I give the defense credit, but I don't buy it.
She deliberately, premeditatedly murdered Michael and Alex, slammed the door on them and let them roll. And I feel today that even to this day that justice was not done. The jury, they knew they were going to have to spend that time and have to run into Linda Russell, run into somebody, that family, and put her on death row. They were a county of cowards. There was no justice done in Union County for Michael and Alex.
2 years after Susan Smith drowned her sons at John D. Long Lake, there was another tragedy at the exact same spot. In September 1996, a group of 10 people, including 6 children, drove to the shore of the lake in a van. They were there to see the memorials to the 2 Smith boys. They stopped. Some got out. Suddenly, the van, which had transmission problems, rolled down the very same slope into the lake. 7 people, including 4 of the children, were drowned. The bodies were recovered by the same divers who found Michael and Alex Smith. The deaths were ruled accidental. I'm Bill Curtis. Join me next time for another episode of American Justice.
Holy shit. All those people died? Oh my God. Sorry, I didn't mean to walk away. I kind of had no choice. My cat was going nuts, Claire. So I brought her to I don't know what the hell's going on with her, man. She's 15. Are you good? She is obsessed. I didn't know what to do. When I brought her to the vet, they said that like a couple of her teeth were broken. The ones like back here, I can't really see. So I started giving her these things. I don't know if you can see them. It's like a puree. I gotta hide it. Anyway, she's obsessed with it. So she only eats a certain kind of treats now and only will eat wet food now. It's like, I don't know, I must have, now she has to have it like every 5 minutes. It's fucked up. So I got up because she was staring at me and she was going, so like, okay. So I got up and I gave her treats and then she still was clawing at me. I'm like, holy frig. So I'm like, okay. So I gave her one of these. And then I gave a whole pile to my son. I said, here, fuck, she's trying. That's like I'm trying to do something here. You know what I mean? Oh, sorry about that. Well, thank you for joining, Hank. I like to read crime and read a book covering the stories Mom was definitely on. Oh yeah, the one you guys were talking about. What's in your head, girl? Oh fuck no, you're not first. Trust me. We've been talking all through the stream and saying how these women remind us of Katie Joy Paulson. Sodium poisoning. Oh my God. Same. Sleep at all today? I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't go to bed till late either when I was up, like when I did my live last night. I was still up at 7 o'clock in the morning. What is wrong? Oh, that's a different one. What's your problem now? She does. Oh, she's a cutie. Y'all good now? Jack's good? Claire's good? Dilly's good? You're not? What do you mean no? I swear she talks to me. What's wrong? Come here. Oh, I sounds like you're horny. That's not good. Come here. Come here. What's the matter? What's wrong? Come here. All right, I'm gonna show you exactly who shit Gabriel is. If it comes up. That's not how you spell Gabriel. Why can't I spell Gabriel? There it is, right there. Fudge. Will you shush? The mother was sentenced to life in prison. The boyfriend was sent to death in the killing of Gabriel Fernandez. I don't know, maybe you can watch this one. It's short. Fuck, I don't know if I should do this though. I kind of don't blame you there. You get that anger. Yeah. Come here. Come here, Dilly. Nunion's talking to you. She's not fixed. She's the only one that's not. She's an indoor kitty, so I never got her fixed, and she only gets in heat like maybe once every 6 months. And apparently this is her time to get in heat. So she kind of meows a lot for a couple days. She's really nice to my son. She wants to be. They fight, I swear. Put this real quick. Trigger warning, because it's probably gonna be really bad. Like I know what it's about, but it's on Netflix. So if any of you have Netflix, it's I don't even know what it's called. It will say Gabriel Fernandez. I deal with the cat together. What's it say? So February 20, 2005, Gabriel Daniel, the son of Arnaldo Contreras and Pearl. Yeah, her name's Pearl. Pearl Fernandez is born. Look how disgusting she looks. Look at that fucking thing. I hate her. I hate that prick too. Me and my friend Jay were watching the Day Rail Walk of the Pilot. Jay said he's not coming out. It's his brother. Oh wow. Hey, Brenda. This is going to piss you guys off, okay? Because, yes, as always, really failed this child. They failed this baby, okay? It's like I said, it's bad. He was going through abuse for a very long time. What I don't understand is seeing how she hates her fucking kids so much. Why would she take her son back from her parents? She should have just left him and let him be. Hormones? Oh my gosh. Like, doesn't this fucking infuriate you? Sorry. Yeah, why? Do you know the story, Lorraine? Oh my God, it's horrific. This recent event will really piss you off. Oh boy. Is this about Gabriel or something else? Yeah, that was heartbreaking. So you've seen it on Netflix then? Oh my God. He was missing that long, right? He goes back to school looking like this. His head is shaved even more. He's bruised beyond belief, and nothing is going on. People reporting it, especially his teacher, his therapist, everything, right? And they aren't fucking doing anything. They close his case. Why are these bastards not being sued? Why are they not being in prison for not protecting this little guy? Like, really? Exactly, none. Yeah, I believe so. They started what the fuck? They started lobotomies in West Virginia. I mean, started. They're done now. What? What? Yeah, I can't do anymore. Like I said, it's fucking bad. That's all that was done. That's it. Police got disciplined, and the 4 people that were involved with CPS got fired. That's it. Nobody went to prison. Not one fucking person. Whoa. This channel does not believe Chris Watts hurt his girls. What the hell? What is this? Sorry, I've had enough. I can't really. Here, we'll watch Dr. Phil.
Well,
Never
folks,
mind.
if
I'll
you're
get
one of
fucking
these,
fucked for that. Never mind. I can't. This is the last night she was seen alive. And that was her best friend dropping her off. Feels sick. That's another thing. Why wasn't this bitch in prison?
Shanann, Bella.
There, this one's only 5 minutes. I think I can deal with that, and then I can't do anymore. I'm sorry. It is hard watching. Yeah, I always do this to myself. It is on Netflix, like I said. The prosecutor is amazing. He's amazing. That guy's got some trauma from the case, big time. Check the link you posted. No, it doesn't fit the story, right? Wow, Mercy, holy hell. What the fuck? My mom was offended and said there's so much forgiveness. Claimed he had multiple personalities and made him hurt. Oh, fuck. Oh my god. Yeah, I can't watch no more of that shit. This is like 5 minutes long. I said I was going to do the comparison between Diane, Susan Smith, and this fuck. Because Shannan, she's not the one who hurt her babies. This fucking monster did. And to put them all in the same category, I still can't fathom that.
Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here.
Shockingly, the police aren't buying any of this narcissistic nonsense. Here we are, back in Colorado again, Frederick, Colorado to be exact. The year is 2018, and the subjects in this case are Christopher Watts, Shannan Watts, and their children, Bella and Celeste, as well as their unborn son, Nico. He had a name. Chris and Shannan would marry in November of 2012 in Charlotte, North Carolina. They would move to Colorado shortly after. Shannan would give birth to Bella in December of 2013 and their second daughter Celeste in July of 2015. In June of 2018, Shannan would surprise Chris with news of yet another child on the way. This would be their first boy, Nico. Chris seemed excited at the news.
That's awesome. Guess when you want to, it happens.
It is August 13th, 2008. Shannan came home around 2 a.m. from a business trip in Phoenix, Arizona. Her friend Nicole Atkinson dropped her off. Shannan, 15 weeks pregnant, had a doctor's appointment at 9 a.m. that morning. Nicole told her to let her know if she needed a ride. Shannan never called. After repeatedly calling and texting Shannan with no response, Nicole drives over to the Watts house. There was no activity inside, and the family car was still in the garage. She called the police when Shannan did not answer the door. At 1:40 p.m., Officer Scott Coonrod would be the first on the scene. Officer Coonrod would knock on the front door, basement windows, and the back door, the hopes of someone answering. He had been told that Shannan had medical conditions and there's a possibility of her being incapacitated inside of the house. There was no response. The officer would have to wait until Chris came home to get permission to enter the residence. Upon entering the house, Shannan's purse, phone, shoes, pretty much everything she would likely bring with her to run errands or take the kids on a play date, which is what Chris's story was, all of that stuff was still there. Shannan worked from home, and with her phone being her lifeline, there was almost no scenario that involves her leaving without it. Suspicions have to be rising amongst those at the scene by now, as red flag after red flag raises. The Watts' next-door neighbor Nate Trinistich had security system footage that would show the Watts' driveway that morning. At 5:17 a.m., Chris would back his truck up to the garage. He would spend almost an hour loading his truck in the morning of his family's disappearance, which was extremely unusual. There would be no other activity on the security footage showing Shannan or the kids leaving the house that day. Watts and Officer Coonrod would watch the surveillance video at the neighbor's house. As they do, it is clear Chris does not want to be there. He's literally watching himself load the bodies of his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters into his truck. His nervousness is noticeable to both Officer Coonrod and the neighbor Nate. With nothing more to investigate that day, police returned to the police department. They start on a missing persons case for Shannan and the 2 children. Meanwhile, Chris goes on camera with local news stations with very little emotion to plead for his family's safe return.
When I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went. If she wasn't here, like where did she go? Like once I got here, it was like, all right, who can I call? I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times just to say, you know, what's going on? Like if she's vanished, like I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad. Last night I wanted that knock on the door. I wanted to see that. I wanted to see the kids running, just barrel rush me and just give me a hug and knock me on the ground. Shannan, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here.
Shockingly, the police aren't buying any of this narcissistic nonsense. On August 15th, Chris would take a lie detector test at the Frederick County Police Station, which he fails miserably.
So, it was completely clear that you were not honest during the testing, and I think you already know that. You did not pass the polygraph test. Okay, so now we need to talk about what actually happened.
Chris would tell officers he only failed because he was lying about something, that he was having an affair with one of his coworkers. Some speculate that he just wanted to start fresh with a new woman, and that was his motive to eliminate his entire family, but only Chris knows what his motives were. Ultimately, Chris Watts would confess to the murder of Shannan by strangling her. He would then smother Bella and Celeste, he would load them into his truck and drive them to an oil battery that he worked at. He would bury Shannan in a shallow grave nearby and place each child into a separate oil drum. The hatch to the oil tanks were only 8 inches wide. Celeste had scratches on her body consistent with being forced into the small opening. I'm sorry, but this guy is a sick fuck. Although Chris was eligible for the death penalty, Shannan's family strongly urged the prosecution to spare his life, as they did not believe anyone had the right to take another human life. Chris would get 5 life sentences to run consecutively, with no possibility of parole. He will die in jail, which is a lot less than what he deserves. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see more videos from 5 Minute Crimes, please comment below with any requests of what you would like to see. And like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel grow. Thank you, and I'll see you.
Okay, I'm done for tonight. What the hell, Mercy? You shit. And Junior had a best friend who's been in a house. She was afraid of her mom's. Oh boy. Yeah, the house did recently sell. Right, Brenda? The reason why I'm doing this is because well, you were there last night, so you probably remember comparing Shannan Watts to Diane Downs and Susan Smith is just ridiculous. There's no comparison there. Shannan was a victim. None of the other were the perpetrators. So I don't understand this correlation and trifecta between the 3. It's fucking disgusting to even imply that. So that's why I'm doing it. Yeah, it did. Good night, Navajo Blondie. I was so upset. I promised to leave my friend alone with the 2. Fuck. Fuck. I don't know. I don't want to cause any more issues. I just wanted to show that this is fucked up. And fucked up thinking that those three are even somewhat related, even like a centimeter, and it like, come on. That's weird. She knew, didn't she? Yeah, I don't know. I probably sound like a hypocrite doing this stream, but I just don't understand. I'm trying to understand why they would say that, and it doesn't make any sense. Oh my God, really? I'm so sorry. Shut up. Oof. What are you doing, little girl? Come here. Come on. Come here. Well, a little closer. A little closer. Come on. Oh, you have a nice stretch. Come here. I'm gonna pick you up. Come here. Come here. Holy shit. Heavy. There, say hi. Say hi, girl. Mm-hmm. Come here. Come here. Look at that face. I'm sorry. You are so cute, though. You're just so cute. My other cat sat on my laptop earlier. Oh my God, he was going like G G G G G G G G G. Put on caps. Was trying to message Alberta and Stella back. I wrote her all in caps, not realizing until I looked up. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not yelling at you. That was my other cat. Josh decided to lay on my laptop. Frig. You're only 16. Oh my God. I'm glad that you went home. And I got both of you. Did you hear me call your name? Oh. This is the little bastard that decided to sit just a little bit. Just please, please, please. You never let me do wrong. It's okay. Hey. Oh, my handsome man. Yeah, you're a handsome man. Hey, you're my mouser. Me mouser. Hey, there you go. All right, I'm done. Yeah, I talk to mine all the time. It's crazy. I swear Dilly yells no at me all the time. All right, you guys have a great night. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully it made sense why I did this. I don't get it. I'll never understand why somebody would victim blame or shame or try and say that they were a fucking trifecta, man. You know, there's some hospitals that allow that. Actually, more senior homes and stuff like that. And I've heard hospitals too that they'll allow dogs and cats. And it helps. It really helps, especially with the elderly. They perk up and they love it. Of course they would. It'd be like for them to see babies. Like, I know I would. If I was in a hospital, which I have been before, so I know exactly what you're going through. I haven't been in as long as you, I'll tell you that. Month's good enough. And oh, it's so depressing. I was so sad all the time. I had nobody to visit me, just like you. It was fucking awful. So depressing. It was like I have no one to talk to. It was awful. Yeah, it does. Yeah. All right. You guys have a great night. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure I'll come up with something tomorrow. All right. Bye.
I know You're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to